It's a prefabricated, like, proprietary, like oversized gravity block wall. So, yeah.
5:30, we'll call the meeting to order. All right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
With that said, looks like we got a quorum. Looks like Alan's not here and Anessa. We'll counsel with that. If anyone has had a chance to review the minutes from February and January, I would entertain motions to approve.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written for those two meetings.
Second.
From Janet. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, unanimous approval. Nice work. No public for public comment, and so we roll right into the Edgewater Master Plan public meeting.
Ryan Pearson's
Oh,
here, so he's our
Ryan.
council person. Hello, council member Pearson. Good to have you with us.
Can you hear us okay? Okay. Can you hear us okay? Might still be connecting. Just gonna look at the volume.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
Can you-
hear you.
Can you hear us?
No, he said he couldn't hear us.
He might have his audio settings wrong.
Oh, there we go. Had a wrong speaker on. There we go. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yep, all good.
Oh,
Thanks.
good, perfect.
Great, welcome. Okay, so I think majority or half of you all were in attendance, but I will just re-summarize some of the comments and concerns that we received during the meeting. And then I'll just summarize the direction that we're taking for the final preferred alternative that will be presented in the March park board meeting, to the next meeting. So a lot of repeated information from the first meeting. There were concerns regarding safety, with lighting and park hours, management of the boat launch. So suggestion of adding a gate at the launch was made. Traffic revisions. The main concern that came up that differed from our three preferred alternatives was discussion about all three of our alternatives provided southbound on Edgewater. And so a comment arose, did we consider northbound? And so we had not considered northbound because I think we really just took the momentum of our original concept for a one-way, and it happened to be southbound. Please excuse me, I have bronchitis, so I'm not contagious. It's not COVID. I've tried everything, inhalers, cough drops, I have tea. I'll try to take breaks and not cough all over you folks. So during that meeting, our public works director was in attendance, and we talked about mailbox orientation on which side of the street. It's currently on the east side of the street. So it does actually we followed up with Public Works and with our consultants after this meeting, and we think that it makes more sense to convert to a one-way northbound because of the mailbox access. So there'll be likely, there's currently cluster mailboxes now, not city issued, but currently some cluster mailboxes on the one-way. I'm not sure if there's room to have a pullout to accommodate those, but there will need to be sidewalks, obviously, for folks to access their mail. So that will be a direction for the traffic revisions for the final preferred alternative. Some additional Foster, we've considered two-way on one of the alternatives and one-way on two of the alternatives. I still think based on the impacts to trees, it's going to be a one-way on the final preferred. We do have to accommodate sidewalk access for folks up to the next block. So considering the wider lane width that will be required as well as the sidewalks, we might push parking up to the east side of the block to where we can avoid impacts to those trees. And reduce kind of the expansive parking that was shown on these alternatives. So these alternatives really maximize, where could the development approach parking along every opportunity, but we've really reduced that, I think, from upwards of 33 spots in some of these alternatives or more down to about 17 for the final program summary. So accommodating, along Edgewater, some along Foster. And then the final preferred, there was majority consensus to relocate the boat launch from its current kind of central location to the end for two reasons. One, we could have expanded parking, which would be beneficial to folks with truck and trailer. And two, it's really separating the boat launch use from some of the other designated park uses with swimming and fishing. So there's great separation for some of those program amenities. Let's see. Additional comments. So the comments were, you don't need to maximize your development, in relation to every inch of development for the right of way. And we think that's kind of a moderate approach to that comment, as well as the development and passive use of the site. Additional comments that came up that differed from the swim area proposals was that the central, currently where the boat launch is, for two reasons, would probably be a better, there's like natural site surveillance there because it's fairly open. It's not down a steep slope, as well as the larger, a large area that could accommodate swimming. And then there's natural stumps within the area that we could, without having the need to add some pilings, tie off to some of those stumps, obviously keeping that area clear. But the final preferred alternative will also likely explore the swim area for option 3 as kind of a phased approach until the boat launch is moved to account for the centrally located swim area. The boat launch, there was some comments that were made as far as, we haven't clarified access. Is this a one-way? How are people using it? Is the parking at the right angle? This was very, very conceptual, so we are still working that out. Some of the changes that are underway are widening this so you could turn in from either direction. It would be a one-way access that you would pull up and back down. And then we're revisiting the angle of these parking spaces so that they're obviously functional and usable for the boat launch. Some additional comments that came up that we did not accommodate a restroom facility in any of these alternatives, but the design direction we're taking is a Santa can immediately adjacent to the existing boat launch, just right on this southeast corner, for a potential phase 1 with a Portland Loo as a design alternative that would probably be located closer to the launch facility.
Portland Loo?
A Portland Loo is like essentially a steel single-use restroom, like an enlarged Santa can, but it's like open visually so you can see if someone's in there. It's just a steel kind of round surround privacy panel that's open for 12 inches or so on the bottom. So it's really great that you can, you're not going to camp out and have misuse and inside of barricaded building. Right. We are trying that at Wards Lake. So as a pilot project off the main park entry, we're removing kind of a traditional CXT block.
It's still a pump out station.
No, it's connected to sewer.
Well, you can use it either way. You can get the vault toilet, but because the sewer lift station is right there, we know there's sewer in the area and there's sewer at that house, so we should be able to
Accommodate that.
accommodate that.
You can also get a Portland Loo.
LOO.
If you type it into Google, it'll pop right up. Yeah.
Yeah, They-
kind of the new thing. and they're
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
resistant.
I saw them down in Vancouver, you know, where the Inn at the Key used to be down there right before you go over the bridge. They've redeveloped that whole waterfront area. And so they have some there that we saw, we've heard about them, but we saw them there. You know, years and years ago, they tried some things in Seattle and California that were like, you know, self-cleaning units, and they weren't very, they ended up being more,
It was very expensive.
they were very expensive and they never worked properly, but people could get in there and do it by the hour, right? You know, it was a privacy room out in the middle of the street. So these, you don't have that same opportunity. It's not the place you're gonna want to hang
They're
out.
moderately affordable compared to that
Like a
self-cleaning.
Stanley can, no water, right?
There's a little hand wash basin inside. You can have solar units or connected to power, but we're doing connected to power with the.
Are we
hand
doing
wash.
the basin inside? Cause I know the one in Vancouver, there was just on the outside, a little push button and water just,
We're doing the interior basin on Woods Lake. The exterior one, you know, just drains and you need a surface drain, you know, adjacent to the unit. The interior one is connected to your sewer so that it's more expensive option, but it's a, you know, then you don't have waste
Legal.
to clean up.
It's
And
legal though. You
Yeah.
got it, even a wash station, you have to drain.
well, Pierce County wouldn't permit the hand wash stations because they're not connected to sewer. And
Right.
so, yeah, I don't know if that would be permittable and
Yeah.
be a Pierce County now that you say that. So we're working on, you know, the preferred, you know, alignment of the relocated boat launch. The preferred fishing pier had quite a bit of separation. It was the option 1 alternative, which I don't know if you all have smaller handouts, but I've got all 3 options printed out.
I can share.
That final one right there. So, option 1,
you have the right one up, because it shows the boat, yeah, right there.
which is quite a large fishing pier for the scale of this park. So we're approaching it from a little bit of a cost reduction, maybe a 50% reduction to where we have this south leg that comes out to a fishing platform. But this U-shaped is reduced to some natural logs to save cost.
But you can still climb safely on those logs, is that the idea?
All the logs would, need to be secured somehow. So if, you know, if the public accesses them or if they're on the shoreline because of the
Right.
lake level fluctuation, they would need to be anchored and secured. Public Works also clarified that we will need lighting. We have the option of either vehicular lighting along all roadway improvements or pedestrian lighting. So we're choosing to go with pedestrian lighting, given that this is a park amenity. I don't know if I said this before, but the roadway alignment on option 2, because the sidewalk runs along the east side of the road, that would accommodate the cluster mailboxes the best. And the sidewalk on the south side, hugging the roadway instead of meandering through the park would allow for, you know, open access and for the passive use of the park rather than splitting that up with pavement. And also, this is a steep site, so there's quite a bit of grade change, you know, along the whole site. The final design will have 3 sections that will show kind of grade and any retaining necessary, 1 for the boat launch area, 1 for the fishing pier, and I think 1 for the parking and the beach access to give, you know, a sense of retaining and slope and such. I think that, and then we're eliminating the viewpoint and reducing the shelter scale. So instead of like a large medium picnic shelter that would accommodate, you know, three tables and have all that parking need, just a reduced, you know, single table or even just a bench, and then benches and maybe a swing just for overlooks. So really reduced from some of the more fully developed program amenities on the other options. So does anybody have any questions based on reviewing the comments from the meeting or my explanation of the design direction for the final preferred alternative?
Well, one comment is, if you do move to go northbound, and there was a lot of pushback on garbage collection, that also solves garbage collection because it's on the east side.
Right,
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's also good.
good point.
Yeah.
That-
So Foster is still set two-way, right?
One way
It's
likely,
one way. It's
yeah.
Going up.
coming
Mhm.
going up. Or no, it would.
It has to be coming down.
Yeah,
Down.
coming
So when
down.
you go
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
this way. And this little pocket beach, what's the idea of that? Is that where people can sit on the beach? Or you can kayaks, but
The pocket beach ideas are just that, to where it's kind of expanded public access at the waterfront. So during our assessment, all of these lime green areas are designated wetlands. So theoretically, we can't, develop those areas, or we don't really want to promote public access. So we've avoided the designated wetlands with the development of the fishing pier, the boat launch, any pocket beaches. But I forgot to add that it's shown as parking on two options, on option 1 and 2, adjacent to the launch, just maintaining that for pocket beach access in the future for launching your kayak, so that you would have maybe immediate access to get, your
yeah.
kayak or paddleboard or whatnot out of your car and down to the beach.
That would be off the old launch, or that would be access.
That's what we talked about, when the boat
Yeah.
launch would be removed or changed, where you had a new boat launch. That could be the hand carry launch
Right.
area.
Yeah, also the benefit just overall would be that the boat launch activity is really central at the south end. The swimming would be in the central, and then the fishing would be on the north. So there'd be as much separation as we could accommodate for those activities with that layout.
The only bathroom is in the parking lot, right?
The Santa Can, which would
Oh,
will apart from the final design alternative, there will be a cost estimate. And then if needed, based on potential funding sources, a phased approach. So potentially, roadway improvements and park, use here as phase 1, and then relocating the boat launch for phase 2. Part of the mitigation required would actually be that we had, either way of how the layout went, we would have to remove the existing launch for the construction of the new launch for mitigation.
Question. Former owner of 3 different lakes. I liked fishing, as well as water skiing, kayaking. Your location for the fishing, has there been any study or discussion with the people that live around that lake as to whether or not that end of the lake is good fishing?
One comment that came up, I can't recall if it did come up in the
It's
meeting,
this
that this is a
Yeah,
cove.
none of the
Yeah,
area is
well,
very
that
deep.
this is a cove
No,
that
that's
has
what I'm
kind of natural debris collection on the south side because of the water currents. So 2 thoughts being that having the boat launch here might kind of propel some of that debris out and away. But that the north site would probably be best, so that you're not fishing on top of all of that debris. But it's shallow regardless, so
Yeah, it's not big game fishing. It's really sport, and
Understood.
Yeah.
Do they plant that
they do.
section of the lake?
Well, they plant the lake, so, fish service.
and there's multiple salmon species that travel through this lake. So there's
there's not very many of them.
I'm not sure if they assess that, but they know that they're there because there's
Yeah.
Clover Creek and Chambers Creek feeding into the lake, so in and out of the lake. So
And if the fishing isn't great, it does give people an opportunity to try, especially new, people that are serious about fishing. Cause I'll tell you that whenever I've been down there, there are people fishing from along the shore, all in that area, all over, if they're not kayaking out.
Right.
But also folks just like getting out and over the water too, for just, getting a view of the water, looking at the, flora and the fauna and the birds and so.
Council member has his hand.
Oh, yes.
Thanks. At the meeting, there was a lot of concern about where the swimming area would be because of the debris that you guys were talking about. So, and then there was some concerns about, putting that in close proximity to a boat launch and things. What would the new plan look like as far as where a designated swimming area would be at in relation to the boat launch and those types of things?
So, yeah, the concern was, we agree. So ultimately, the final view would be putting the boat launch or the swim area where the current boat launch is, mostly because it's more accessible. There's good visibility from natural surveillance. But until the boat launch is moved, the idea is to put the swim area actually
For option 3.
on option 3. Do you want to show that? Option 3. Option 3 sort of has it further down the beach, if we're not going to build it all at the same time. And that was mostly because down in the cove area or where the new boat launch would be, the water flows that way. And these people were saying it's kind of skunky there naturally. And so it's not a great area for swimming. And so the idea was to move it further down there just because it has to be outside of the wetland area. So that's just sort of like the phase 1 designated area. And then the idea is to put it at the end of Foster when that boat launch is relocated. Because it's kind of where they're swimming now and it's a good visible area. So there's, you're not hidden underneath the bank. So.
And then in the swimming area, would the stumps be cut or removed or something? So it would be you're not going to have hazards under the water, or is it?
We're not, this is a sort of a picture where it's at. So sometimes we may use the stumps as a way to adhere a boat float. So you don't have to put a pier out there anyway, so we'll assess that and see if you can remove a stump. I don't even know if you can because of biologically or environmentally, but we'll take a look at that and see how those stumps either are getting in the way or if they pose any kind of safety hazard.
Okay, great.
So most of the boat track, like when it launches from its new launch, it's going to go around into the greater lake, right?
Correct.
You're not going to go up here and back.
Yeah,
There's
it's kind of
just
a dead
nothing
end.
up there,
It's just
yeah.
an cove, yeah.
So the swimmers are really not in the way of the boats particularly.
No, and if we define the area with a rope, it'll keep the boats out and keep the swimmers in, yeah. And it is a little bit of a ways to go if it is in this sort of area.
That looks good. And it's not a bunch of wetlands right there.
No, that's the best water
That's the
too,
best
Yeah.
water.
clean wise.
That's good.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to give you an update so that you're, again, just kind of prepared as we move forward. Our goal is at our next meeting, which is the 26th, which is the next meeting in March, that we'll be presenting a preferred alternative. But the idea is if the park board is happy with the preferred alternative, are we going to have a cost estimate by then too?
I'll have to get back.
And
Yeah.
phase, yeah, so
That might be later before the final presentation to council. We will have.
yeah, I hope we'll have it so that you can take a look at it. And then if we have a phased process, so that if you're in agreement with the preferred alternative, you would make a recommendation to forward it to council. It is on a council agenda in April. But if we're not ready to do that, then, but the idea is that we should have an approved master plan so we can apply for grants, which that grant cycle is tightening up at the end of May or in May.
Early May.
Yeah, and then we start doing presentations in June, July, and August. So the idea, we're not quite sure exactly even what grants we'll be applying for, but they're all sort of happening this spring. And it's a 2-year cycle. So if we miss this window, then we would just be waiting for 2 more years, which then is another 1.5 years for funding. And then it's another year plus for permitting, so it does push that development and enhancement out there. So, and if indeed that's the case, especially if there is still some issues happening on where the new boat launch would be property, we may be looking at a phased approach anyway, just to get some improvements there to show how it could be done. So, but we'll bring that, back to you next month.
I think this project's a big project. I mean, it's obvious going to be phased.
Yeah.
You could almost do, and there were some comments made at our earlier meeting with the public that, why are you spending all this money? Do a spray park, go somewhere else. There's some priority stuff that not priority stuff, mandated stuff that we have to do. We have to make it safe for the public. If there's a launch, it has to be safe. If we're going to do some kind of a pathway, it has to be safe. If we're going to do any amenities, they have to be safe. And we can't not do those because it's degrading right now. So it's almost like, okay, so what are the necessary things that we got to do right now, or what's in for phase one? And that's you don't have to answer.
Yeah,
So
but just that
throw
have,
a
maybe
question
have
out there.
some criteria
Yeah,
to help
yeah, so-
determine what the phase is, not just cost, but what are the most important elements? What would you say, if we were looking at some criteria, what are some of the most important elements? You said safety.
So one is if we're going to do a path and there's no real path there now, it needs to be ADA.
Mhm.
That's one. And if you're going to,
Parking is the issue.
parking is another
Parking,
issue.
to get out of your car, not get killed.
The sidewalk thing is important because it gets you access closer to the lake.
We would have to phase sidewalks in at the same time as parking, because that will be part of the permit approval
It makes
process
sense,
with
yeah.
Public Works.
Yeah. That and any changes to the road, right? The road
Correct.
would have to get, is it going to get redone?
Yes.
Our projects are in conjunction with some public works projects, or
We're essentially managing a public works project because the majority of this is within the public right of way. So they're involved in all of this decision making though, and
but none of their funding is coming forward for these.
Well,
right-of-way
not at
improvements.
this time, but that doesn't mean we don't have a funding package
Right,
put together
At
yet.
all.
But we could look at all the different, not just grants, but there's, I don't know if the Transportation Improvement District has funds, or if there's special sidewalk funds or swim funds. I mean, there's lots of different pockets that we'll take a look at and see what's best. There's REAP funds. But we'll work with finance regarding, how those funds can be used, because the Public Works did a bond project and they have a benefit district, and all those funds are really accounted for in special projects, and they are using those funds as match for a whole lot of federal grants and state grants. So we would we'll work on that to see what's out there and what we're eligible for. And then, of course, what grants we get.
Now you can leverage money.
Yeah. So the other is safety is there hazardous trees there? I think you dealt with the hazardous trees, but a current assessment, and does that need to be addressed in the first phase? So it's safe. And then while you're doing sidewalks, you want.
we did, talk about these Lombardy poplars. We actually spoke with the gentleman whose family planted them, and they're very likely nearing the end of their lifespan as
Yeah.
a poplar. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
That's
like
a
at
good
the
point.
70-year mark. So,
Lombardy poplars?
Yeah.
yeah.
between 50 and 100, you start losing big hunks of them.
Or
So,
big branches.
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
What's still in very concrete.
We're still looking for it,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, hopefully. Okay, that's great. Any other thoughts?
Well, just about the shoreline management. Is that,
What about shoreline management
what about
plan?
it? I don't know.
Oh, well, there's a shoreline management plan in the city. We have to follow all of that. Yeah, that's part of our permitting.
Well, that's also part of the permittability of all this development of the shoreline. So there's the shoreline management plan for the city of Lakewood, as well as the Shoreline Management Act for the state. So any approved permits, have to, usually are supported by those, bringing access to the water and ADA access as well, so. Improving habitat, this is somewhat self-mitigating, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of invasives here that if we're removing invasives and planting shoreline species, that's also habitat improvement, which is supported by both of those.
That's not a small amount of work, and kudos to you guys.
Yeah.
That's a job well done so far.
Yeah. And one of the comments said that this is a neighborhood park. It is not a neighborhood park. If it's developed, it's going to be a signature park because it's going to add one major feature. It's going to add one access to the water. And the only really lake that we have, I mean, we have access now, but it's not safe.
It's not good,
So-
right?
This is great.
Yeah.
And this was in our legacy plan.
Yeah, it meets one of our.
Well, yeah,
our legacy plan.
We did talk about that a little bit, that what's the designation of a community park versus a neighborhood park? And
Yeah.
given the boat launch and water access,
Yeah.
that is more of a community amenity,
Yep.
so.
One of the things I heard loud and clear from some of the residents that concern about the bathrooms. And so acknowledging that there's going to be Santa cans. What, besides the cost, what would be the thought about having an actual bathroom?
Well, the Portland Loo is an actual bathroom. It's a flush toilet with a sink, but it's not a building. And the best part about not having a building is that if you have a building, someone has to open it and close it and stock it and repair it and fix the vandalism that occurs. And when someone goes in there and shuts the door and honestly sleeps or shoots up or something like that, then it's not accessible to anyone else. So we are putting a real bathroom in there. It's just not a place you're gonna go in and, get ready for the wedding.
And we don't have the real estate.
Yeah.
Space to put in an actual restroom building.
Yeah.
Just the amount of space between the shoreline and the, basically the roadway. Just very difficult. That and cost.
And
Does
cost.
it really warrant that size? There's, a half dozen to a dozen days a year where you're getting this overwhelming amount of people there. But again, generally speaking, 350 days of the year, you're onesies, twosies here and there. And so it just doesn't necessitate that big of a facility in my mind.
Well, hearing some of the stories, I'm sure that people are going to be delighted to hear that they're going to be.
Something.
And my hunch is the Portland Loo is probably a phase 2 thing, just because I know the costs on those. And so we've had some success building what we call Santa can structures. They've been from fence materials or cedar kind of fence.
Like
but
an enclosure.
yeah, that just helps keep it secure and, it provides us a secondary way to
Privacy
block
screen
them.
around
Little
it.
privacy,
That's what we.
Yeah, and we've tried not to do the privacy screens because it's a hiding spot, but it's more about the securing of the Santa can so they're
Can't
not
get tipped
tipped.
over into
You're
the
not
lake.
tagging 3 sides of it, those sorts of functions, and it's worked well for us.
Yeah, we've done privacy screens where they're open at the bottom,
Right.
12 inches or 18
Yep.
inches. So it shields, screens off the Santa can.
Yeah.
But you can also secure them.
Right.
You can secure the Santa can
Yeah.
there too.
Adding artwork too, that
Yeah.
panel
Yeah.
can be wrapped with an art similar that
Yep.
Yeah.
to the signal boxes, so that was also another consideration at Wards Lake to kind of start off on a,
That'd be
um,
cool.
you know,
Yeah.
That'd be
on
great.
a,
Can't drive by the mural on Still Guns bathroom without just putting a
I know.
smile on my
Yeah,
face.
that's
It's
great.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I have to say the one in American Lake is so cool, but you have to go down there and turn around and look at it. But, like the mountains out. It's
Oh,
just
right,
really-
right, right.
Really like that. It's mountains out. You can see it from there.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Any other comments on Edgewater?
I had a comment. So I don't know if there's been any evaluation to this or not, or whether it warrants it or not, but, Lake Steilacoom is a bit of a smaller lake as far as boating, space goes. And is there any thoughts as to how best to regulate the amount of boats that are now being launched here? Or, do people have to have, a pass to launch the boat for the day or anything like that? Is there, there's a lot of boats already on the lake. And so I'm just wondering, what's like the kind of safe capacity to have more boats on the lake, I don't know if you've ever been to, Spanaway Lake, but that lake gets pretty crazy. And so I just, I don't know if that lake is regulated at all, or I just would, it'd be a shame to have too many boats out here and just what's any thought to that?
Yeah, we have had thoughts about that. So, if you've ever been to American Lake on the weekends in the summer, it also is pretty crazy there. You have all of the property owners that have boats, and then you have American Lake, which has capacity to launch boats, as well as Camp Murray. So there's a lot of ways to get lots of boats on that lake. For Lake Steilacoom, we did do a traffic study, so we do know on a hot holiday weekend about how many boats are being launched. So it was about how many?
30 something launches.
Yeah, like
Over
30
the weekend.
launches over a hot holiday weekend. But a lot, but most of the people that live on the lake also have them. So part of it is we have talked about putting a pay station at this when it's redone, not really where it's at now, but a pay station. And also, you have limited capacity with parking and access, just like you do now. Even with an improved boat launch, you still don't have 50 parking spaces for boats. I mean, between the neighborhood and the area. So some of that is self-regulating, just because you don't have, you just don't have the capacity and you don't have the infrastructure to support, significant numbers of more boats out there. So you probably will get a bit more, but, I do think that will limit the, because you still have really very limited access to the lake.
Does the city have jurisdiction over the number of boats that are on there? Is that's a state function, correct?
The state manages
Just
the
the
waters,
water,
yeah.
yeah.
And the city does have authority to manage some of the activities on the lake. And honestly, the police have spent a lot more time monitoring what's happening at Fort Steilacoom because they have access to the water, to different sides of the lake. And so they've done a lot of work at the boat launches with the sound and those big jet engine things, and making sure that people have their boat cards, making sure people have life jackets. So I would suspect with all of the with all the comments that were said and sharing that with the police department, I would see there'll be more activity down here from an enforcement. Even if the boat launch doesn't change, I think we'll see more enforcement down there of activities. So it's still a pretty good sized lake. I mean, it's still a pretty good sized lake.
Larger than Lake Louise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a small lake.
Yeah, yes. And there's a fair amount of boats on Lake Louise.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else on Edgewater?
That's good feedback.
All right. Hearing none, it looks like we're going on to new business and the Fort Steilacoom Park boundary line adjustment.
Yeah, so Nikki will pull that up for us. So that was something that has been on our work program for a bit. And as you remember, whether you remember or not, can I have the clicker, or are you gonna send that?
No, I'm gonna let you have it.
How come there's a big X on that screen that says number 3?
The dream.
Third slide, it had a big X. We'll see what it shows up. That's okay. So, okay. You want to go back to the front? Okay. So, so the city, as you know, this Fort Steilacoom Park has been a park since the 70s. Oh, gosh, can we move?
Hide that, Stacy.
You could go to that little more.
Will you do that? Yeah. So, when, Fort Steilacoom's been a park since the 70s. Thank you. And, the city took over management of it in like 2008, I think. And then we actually became owners of the land in 2019, June of 2019. And it was a budget proviso from the governor. And so we did our work, and it took longer than we expected, but we became the owners in 2019. And at the same time, Pierce College was supposed to be doing their hard work and become the owners. Well, it didn't happen until the middle of last year. And so that's quite a distance. So this is a map you can see with the green lines, and this is what everybody thinks the boundaries of Fort Steilacoom are based on city ownership. It's about 500 acres. And this is really what the city's maintaining because we keep track of all the trails and we make sure it's safe. But this is really enter with this
For the
arrow.
Just on the side.
I'm hitting all the arrows. Which one did you hit?
I just did the arrows. Oh, there it
This,
goes.
oh, this is really what the boundaries are. So you can see Pierce College and this is kind of the boundaries now. Now, again, this is outlined so that you can kind of get an idea of where the different locations are. But this is really what the boundaries are. And then, what happened was, we went in and talked with, I'll just go back for a second. The city really was interested, specifically me, in, I mean, the whole city was in having, oops, darn, having this part also be part of the park. You know, it's very steep. This is Lake Louise neighborhood over here. There's kind of a natural boundary right here. You can take that path here up to the college. And they do have this little teeny maintenance thing down here that hardly ever is used, but we really tried to get all of this land, but it is Pierce College land and they didn't want to lose that. So
And what reason?
they said someday they might want to build a dormitory there. And I said, I am not going to be in charge of that meeting. But it would be a really difficult place, I think, to build a dormitory. And I don't think it would make logistical sense. But that was what they said at the time. They may want to build a dormitory for the college and okay. So anyway, so the negotiated property lines are such. And the reason that they did that is that the only reason they were willing to give away some of this property, they wanted absolutely 100% nothing to do with the lake. They saw the lake as being a potential liability. They know after years and years of activity from farming operations, you know, we've had challenges with algae. They just didn't want anything to do with the lake. So they were happy to hand that over to us. And at the time, back in 2017, when we were chatting about this, the city had just put $1 million into paving Wahop Lake. And so we didn't want to, you know, well, we've put a lot of resources into the park and we didn't own the land, but again, we wanted to make sure that we were protecting our investment. So just so you know, this is sort of the official document and I wanted to give you a direct information on the boundary line adjustment. So this is basically the outline and you can see here, this is where the little dock is that floats out there. And then this is the pathway that went up into the area that was the fire. So I'm just going to show you now the boundary line adjustment. So we had talked quite a bit at the last several meetings ago about volunteer activities and safety and historic preservation. Most of that area that was burned is the colleges.
Yeah.
So one of the things that when we kind of started doing the boundary line and it got approved and they have a new chancellor and a new president, I sent notes to them that said, hey, we should probably sit down and chat with you about the importance of maintaining the natural area, the requirements of being in a historic area, because I'm not sure that they follow all of those kinds of thoughts because their mission isn't park and open space. Their mission is education. And so, and we've been good partners. So one of the things we want to do is just make sure they understand that, you know, there are some areas we've discovered, like the old piggery area, that there's great opportunities to do some storytelling and historic preservation. So we'll be working with them on that. But technically, if you can see my little arrow here, so just to this point right here is Pierce College land right here. So there you go. The rest of this is all City of Lakewood. So the boundary line review was finally ended. It got completed ended last year, and there you go.
Wow.
For Silicon Park.
They still own the lower prairie that's on the north side there, the little finger that's the flat prairie zone.
Yeah.
You mean right here?
Yeah. that
Yeah,
you're mowing all the time.
this area here, yeah.
Yeah.
So they do own this land. We have the trail that it's a easement for a sewer line, but that's really the sidewalk that everybody uses, the trail. And we did put a gateway here at the end, and part of the conversation with the college was, is although we know that this is technically their property, we wanted to, we'll maintain it, so we have an agreement for that. But, so part of the conversation was always once the boundary line was done, that we need to have an operational agreement, because here's the other thing. See these water tanks up here? So this is our water tank. This is the college's water tank. Both of those tanks are actively used to provide water to Western State Hospital. So when and if that changes, which we all hope that that does change and go to Lakewood Water, I think it's a better process. They're not, Western State isn't in the business of operating a water district, although they have one. The decommissioning these, I mean, in a perfect world, I would love this to be a staircase to the top, a slide coming down, and an awesome viewpoint.
Oh, no, that'd be cool.
I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, but, or some cool murals on it, right? Who knows what those hold for the city in the future. So that's probably gonna be after my time.
So who's doing the assessment on those water tanks? Because they're supposed to be done like annually.
Oh, yeah, they say that they are, and they're supposedly like AAA rated, but we know that they've never even flushed them in at least the 23 years I've been here. They've overflowed a few times,
Yeah.
but not
I've
flushed.
seen those.
Yeah, the washout.
Yeah.
Now the other thing, just so you know, that they do have, and I'm trying to see where it is on this map, but right about down here, nope, it's right here, actually. They have, their pump, that's the well.
Oh, right.
The well is right there,
That
so,
little building.
yeah. So that little building is the well, and so that's what generates the water. And really, they also have a well over on the Western State Hospital side, on the other side of Silicon Boulevard. But it's inoperable now because they found some bad things in there, chemicals or something. PFAS, I don't know what that means, but it's bad.
PFAS in there? PFAS?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's, you know what that is,
No.
right? Oh, that's the fire retardant that they put.
Yeah, chemicals. So there's some, so they're not using that well, so.
So with the college not wanting anything to do with the lake, do we still have a concern of their emergency overflow?
No, that's all been taken care of. Oh, yeah. And so when you hear folks that say, oh, the college's sewer is leaking into the pond, the lake, it really isn't. It did happen twice. It happened once, when they were building a portion of the college, gosh, many, many, many years ago, a Santa can tipped over, and that washed in from just, stormwater runoff. But there was a period of time it was in, gosh, let me think now. Yeah, probably 7 years ago. The college, every time they built an improvement, they've had to improve the sewer system and the stormwater system. But their main tank was really still the 1970 tank for whatever the structure was then. So what happened is that the pump stopped. And so for a period of about 48 hours, it got to the top, and back in the day, you could do this. The overflow was a pipe right down to Wahop Lake because it was thing. So there was a couple of days over a weekend period of time where there was some
pool.
Huh?
Was this their pool?
No. It was
Okay.
just, it was just their sewer line, sanitary line. And it was when we were doing the path around Wahop Lake, because a contractor was assessing something. He came down, I went, ooh, there's something happening down here. And so that's when but since that time, they shut it down, they just capped it, and they have a, what's it called? Redundant. It's not, it doesn't overflow there, because you couldn't do that now. But back in the 70s, you got to do lots of stuff. So that's not ever happened again. And there was really only a couple of times. It wasn't like a regular forever ongoing. It was just that period of time when their pump failed and the alarms went off. They couldn't figure out why the alarms going off. And then they spent a ton of money and time, Pierce College, doing all kinds of tests because everything was shut down. They couldn't figure out where the leak came from, right? They were flushing colored dyes down and seeing if it popped up somewhere. And it didn't, because the system wasn't failing. It was just that period of time when the pump failed. So, yeah. So anyway, there's no real concerns. They've also done They also did a bunch of testing. This is in lieu of what you may have heard in other places. They did a bunch of testing and it wasn't from septic tanks around the thing leaking into there. That didn't cause, it's really old phosphorus from, the farming operations, all the stuff that they dumped in there for years and years and years. So,
It's part of the study for the alum treatments, right?
well, that was even before that. Yeah.
So where does that leave the piggery and all that area?
Well, right now, the folks that were all set on ripping everything out, we've told them no. And then, the other good news is that, you know, the big thing that we talked about, we talked about, oh, it's nice when someone comes in and wants to help you. And it's like, Shelley has a great idea. He wants to come in and he's got a great idea and he's got 10 people from his church and they're going to go and do a project. It's like, well, that's great, but how does it fit within the big picture? And is it safe? Have they been trained? And how does it affect the whole operation? So we've kind of told everybody we need to just take a break. We don't have a volunteer coordinator. I mean, Nikki coordinates all kinds of ones and dones, groups that come out for one-time projects and special projects. There's folks out there, you know, the Scotch broom pullers that are there all the time. But we have a lot of people interested in doing things, but we have to make sure it's done properly, because we're, you know, looking at the safety of the site and the safety of the city. So anyway, we do have a staff person in the city that was hired for community engagement. And we've asked if we can work with that person to help do some volunteer coordination, some projects. So we're excited about that. So,
Is that Chris?
yeah, so we're going to be meeting with him to see how he might help us move things forward. But really, it's going to be, we need to get the college involved because it is really their property to protect. So, and they haven't had to do
So
much.
there's some pink tape out there right now. Is that this?
That's an individual that's concerned people are going to wander through the woods and get hurt. If they stay on the trails, they won't. So, but he's just worried that at first it was, this is where we should pull all of the stuff out. We're like, no, that's historic. You can't do that. So we could pick up the garbage. I mean, you can pick up the garbage, old beer bottle or something that you found, but not infrastructure that was from, 19 or 1820s and 1940s and stuff. So
The college does want to participate. I mean,
yeah,
all you have to do is give them a volunteer coordinator too. We had 30 of them show up at the wildlife area.
yeah.
Who were talking about how they can integrate it with curriculums and stuff.
Yeah, and we've had different folks over the years that have been really interested and have done stuff at the park, water quality, oak trees. It's just finding the right person and then getting them engaged. So, yeah, so that's the boundary line adjustment. That's where we're at. But again, there's never been a fence that said, now we're at Pierce College.
Yeah.
There's never been signs that said, if you don't like with the way we prune the hedge, call Pierce College, it's just really been open for the community and they've been great partners. So we want to continue that. So.
Do they go up in that road, what is it, ash trees or the park?
Which are you talking about?
Which
ridge?
The west side, southwest corner. Southwest
West.
corner, yeah. We walk
The bottom left.
west.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
We go. That ridge that goes north,
yeah.
there's a old road and a bunch of locust trees up there.
Yeah.
Does anybody
They-
maintain that?
Well, what we kind of maintain the pathway, so to speak. They use the trail, I guess, through the maintenance. But one of the things during the fire we recognized, thinking it was ours, is that we really, not the building, no, we knew that was ours. But one of the things we recognize is that especially for access, if there's a fire, that, better maintenance of keeping it open versus just letting it grow and whacking down the bushes. So from a fire protection perspective. So, but not from a tree management or really much, no.
Should get a goats.
Goats.
Give me blackberries out there.
So that's that. So, are we ready for just
Looks like we're rolling
director's report? So, lots happening. Stacy's been working really hard on CIP projects. We weren't due to do a CIP until July, but I think we might actually move it up because we're going to be sharing some information with council. So we thought we would bring some information to you. had a great meeting with a group of folks. Did we talk about Old Settler Cemetery at our last meeting? So the city now is the keeper or the owner of the Old Settler Cemetery, which is next to the fire station on Washington Boulevard. And so Pierce County. Yeah. So the city now is the owner. And so there were some ideas that people were concerned that it wasn't being maintained properly. There hasn't been much work done on there. And so the city, as we were doing the due diligence to determine, well, whether we were going to keep it or not, which we were, is that it actually is one of the most pristine prairie areas in the state. And there's all these amazing plants there. And so, and that Pierce County, Jeff Stone, who works with their stewardship program, said, hey, I just want you to be aware that there's all this amazing native plants, and it's really, there's some invasive things too, but they had been going in there and doing some work and trying to keep the county from just doing a bunch of mowing because, you know, they wanted to be able to do it. So we met with a group of folks that kind of came together. There's a professor from PLU. There was a retired landscape architect that's done a bunch of work in the native plant areas. There was a woman that was so excited because she's been for like 2 or 3 years starting to do identification of areas out there and really interested in learning about the history of the site. We've been asking for archives, give us something about, you know, any history of that site really that the county might have. So they're going to be looking through their archives. And as we have been working with groups on the cemetery at Fort Steilacoom Park, there's a lot of history, and all they have really is this Eagle Scout project that has a board with a bunch of names on it, but it doesn't really even identify who's where. So we hope to just do more work. So one of the things that we're doing is not doing maintenance. We're going to do some pardon our progress signs because they really need a whole season of growth so that they can identify all these different plants and species that are growing from, you know, throughout the year. So spring, you know, everybody loves all the purple crocus that pops out there, which is really quite invasive. But but I said, you know, and then there's a lot of fir trees there that really limit some of the oak production. So so part of it is investigation, identification, inventory, and then looking at what's the proper environmental protection and maintenance plan for that area. So
Are
But-
would they move the graves or would they?
no.
Those are always gonna stay.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll be maintained without mowing.
Yeah. And there's all different, yeah.
Sand work.
Yeah.
That's really how you have.
Yeah. So there's ways of, but part of it is just to educate folks as to what you're looking at so that, you know, it's not going to be forest lawn. It's going to be something that's really a celebration of the prairie and celebration of the native plants and the history of the site. So we hope to, you know, have more support. But this group of folks that came together were so excited, that the city was taking over, that the city was encouraging all these folks to come together, and they had their little books out. They were getting started. So we're excited about that.
Are they a group of them?
Nope, just individual folks that have come together when they heard what we were doing and that there were these opportunities to do identification. They've done this for years. Like one's a professor at PLU, right? So biologist, is she the biologist?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just excited about, you know, the natural environment, and they have a lot of experience. So that's, you know, that's what we love. Volunteers that like to do good work. So.
Yeah, I think they mentioned 95 or 98% of this particular habitat has been degraded. So it's just a really precious resource.
Spot. So, yeah. And then we're just actively working on all of our projects. The Nisqually Partnership Project, Stacy and I have been working with them, and we're going to be doing an art open house in a couple of
March 12th.
weeks, March 12th. And one of the concerns that the tribe has is that there's tribal members that are artists, but they don't come and they don't participate, they don't share their artwork. And then people get upset because they're not using tribal artists to do the artwork. And so we're trying to, they've got a separate project that they're working on with the state park that they're really trying to do, community engagement with their community and get more people involved. So we're hoping to piggyback on that, but also just get some more feedback from the tribe as to a couple of the areas that we'll be doing. So that's pretty exciting. So work in progress.
Mhm.
What else are we
Do
working
you
on?
want, do you want to mention that street end prioritization, maybe, is it July or September?
Yeah, that's just part of their work program is that we've had some questions about street ends and, the council is interested in doing a pilot project in 25-26 budget with the idea of probably like identifying the location at the end of this year, determining how we're going to get that accomplished and funded probably in 25 with permitting or whatever just need to be done with the idea between 25 and 26 getting it built. And so part of your work is on here in July is to do how we might do the prioritization. In the study, the update study, there was sort of a prioritization, but there was a lot of conversation about that. And so since council said they were going to be working on in the 25-26 period, we would come back at the end of this year and talk about it. So we'll probably come back like in July because they're also working on developing the budget for 25-26. So we need to see, because one project might be really easy to do and another one might be quite complicated. So we'll come back probably in July and start the conversation with you. What criteria should be being used, review the study again, kind of get some feedback on you, the important things, what's more important than something else, so that you can create a prioritization,
Criteria.
criterion system, and then make a recommendation to council. And then council can choose, however they want to do that, but we'll give them something to have a conversation about. So that'll be later this year.
So Mary, there seems to be a surveyor that's been working out on the Gravelly Lake, I guess, lake access across from Lake Steilacoom Boulevard.
Okay.
And it's been fenced off. There's a boat there, and I was wondering if you have any.
Which area, what are you talking?
Okay, it's Mrs. Strong's old pink house.
Okay, so if the city is doing some work, I think, in the Gravelly Lake area, for some street improvement projects, but I don't know anything about something being fenced off or there's a boat in something. So do you want to give me, and we can send the code enforcement piece pull out there. Is that a code enforcement issue you
Well,
say?
it's not well, I've just noticed a surveyor. He does have a boat now.
Oh, he's doing,
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I saw he was doing surveying work.
okay.
It's been fenced off next to the old pink house.
Do you know what
which is-
that address is?
No, I don't. It's right across from Lake Steilacoom Boulevard. It goes
Okay,
down, the other way. But that's Gravelly Lake. It's a private property on the east side. And it's just curious if the city, you might have any idea, since we've talked about Gravelly Lake having access.
yeah, so there are,
Street ends.
there's two,
Yeah.
kind of street end easements there. But we can take a look at that. I'm not doing anything there, but that doesn't mean that Public Works might not be. So we'll check into it and see what the situation is. At our last meeting, there was somebody that said there's a piece of property on Gravelly Lake. Why don't you just go buy that and do your work over there? So, I mean, I would love for us to buy a piece of land over there and create a public access point. However, that doesn't preclude us from doing this project as well. Now, does the city have, $1 million zillion to do that? No, but we did hear about a piece of property
Oh,
that's
yeah,
for sale.
it's available.
Yeah,
It's just it's right at Nyanza and Gravelly Lake at the roundabout at
yeah,
yeah.
kind of in that area.
It's been posted, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what it is running for?
2 billion.
They have,
2 million.
It was 800,000 just.
well, everything in Lake was just popped up. I mean, houses are going in Lake City area for $1 million, and I'm sorry.
So,
It's outrageous.
yeah, I'll just take a look at that area. I don't know anything about it, but if we find something out, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
or
I knew
let the
that it
group
was
know.
private property at one time because it was a property that belonged to the Pink House.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, when I see fences going up or at least
Well,
delineation.
I will let you know that back in the day, many people put fences up on street ends and that doesn't mean that they are encroaching, but we really know kind of the areas now with our study. So There are 2 access points at, on Gravelly Lake, but we'll check out this and see.
But
But
they're
I'll have to look in Google, the old pink
They're
house.
only on Nyanza though. The accesses are Nyanza accesses, but this would be.
Holly Hedge Lane and
Yeah, and,
That's the
This is
Nyanza
a
side.
Rabbit
yeah.
Lake Drive. access.
I'll see what I can find out for you. I don't know much about this spot, but we'll find out.
I would like to just follow up. I want to take some of this information about the Pioneer Cemetery to our neighborhood association.
I have
meetings.
some meeting
They'll be-
minutes that we talked
Okay,
about.
that'd be really good. They'd like,
Yes.
I'm sure they'll be interested.
Yeah, and once we sort of right now, so the other thing is that I said, oh, okay, well, we do Park Appreciation Day in the spring and we do, Make a Difference Day in the fall. And they're like, we don't want 30 people out here tromping around because the whole point is to inventory what's there, not trample what's there. So, but we'd love to share kind of just information
Well,
on
they did
that.
mention like in the fall was best for invasive removals. There's some
Yeah.
ivy in the back portion of that, in the fall was when they typically are the least disturbance to the
So
site.
this is now a city volunteer project. It's not.
It's a
just
city project and we have some volunteers doing some work on it. I mean, we own the land, so it's public space, so, but we're not, there's, volunteers that are doing some work on this
so maybe
project for
this
us.
would be a good place for Chris to get his.
These guys are pretty focused, so I'm not sure we
But I
need
mean,
as much
Hands
activity.
off, and just like, oh, it's great. We have a.
Yeah. We were just gonna start meeting with him and talk about, our expectations, his opportunity and looking at what we might need. So, if there's already a very motivated group doing something, we wouldn't waste his precious time on that. We would focus it on another area where we need to gather some folks, and make sure that people are doing it. But we haven't even had that meeting yet. We just got permission to use him. So, yes.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, so.
One of the comments that's improvements for still to come on the ball fields are looking great. Coming along
That
really
is scheduled to
nicely.
be completed probably middle to end of March.
Is that right?
So there was some delay with the skylights. They got ready to put the skylights in after they've been working on the building for a month and determined the skylights weren't shipped with the building package. So, but it should be wrapped up here very soon.
And we'll let you know, there'll be some kind of probably in April or so. So we'll let everybody know.
Mayor's gonna throw the first pitch.
Huh?
Mayor's gonna throw the first pitch.
I'm not sure who, but probably. Or maybe we'll have a couple of first pitches, right? So I think Pierce College will want to have a little bit of that action too.
Artist reception.
Oh, why don't you share that?
So the art that's out on the walls right now is Ron Snowden's art. And on Monday, March 18th, there will be an artist reception. So the artist will be here, meet him, talk to him. There will be music and light refreshments
Yeah.
and
It's a really nice show.
What day is it?
Monday, March 18th.
My wife asked you to take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really,
Besides with,
They are really good.
White,
oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, it'd be, but I really like his work. He's really talented and,
I think it's Ron Snowden. I think it's 5 to 7,
Sunday?
Monday.
Monday, yeah.
It's right before the council meeting.
on the
So
18th.
5 to 7.
Is he a liquid artist or?
I don't think he's a liquid artist, but he is a Washington artist.
He might be from Tacoma area, but,
Councilman board members?
Yeah, I have a comment. Can you give us an update on Partner for Parks and the H Barn?
sure. So Partners for Parks, they just got another grant of $200,000 this week. So they're at 1.6 million, over 1.6 million. Do you want to maybe share, Alan, you had a meeting with, city council, maybe give them an update on what's
Yeah,
happening?
we're on schedule, we're on track. We're still not to the public phase where we go to ask the public for donations, because the reality is to raise the 3.5 million, we've got a professional fundraiser helping us. Most of that money is coming from big chunk donors. And really, when we go to the public, we'll only represent maybe 5% of that 3.5 million. It'll be a lot of people, it'll be
Yeah.
hundreds of people, maybe even 1,000 that participate. But we're still kind of in the private nurturing the big deep pockets phase, and grants is a major
Yeah.
focus for us right now.
I think we may try something, I was just talking to Shelley, who's works in the, helping to coordinate things, maybe in the fall, do some kind of like a, we did the barn bingo and
Yeah.
we've done some other things to kind of get the community now more excited about it.
I think it'd be great to do something truck and tractor time in that time frame,
Yeah.
or maybe even coordinate it with truck and tractor day.
Yeah. Yeah, Truck and Tractor Day is a big day. I was saying they were looking at that and that might be a good awareness event. Yeah,
Exactly.
maybe
Nothing
hang out.
About making money.
Yeah, hanging out next to the dirt pile. That would be a great place to be. And then the other thing is that one of the things that was recommended by Partners for Parks to the city is that they have 1.6 million and that 1 million of it could be dedicated to start working on plans and designs and drawings, because that will help get a decent cost estimate, because the cost estimate was based on a schematic design. I mean, John Corsmo helped do it, and he's obviously built 1 million buildings, so it's a good cost estimate. We've added an accelerator to it for inflation, but we really need a good set of drawings so we know really what the cost is going to be. Maybe we only need to raise, maybe we don't need to raise that much, or we can add something to it. Getting started on, and then being able to spend that money down shows the grantors that we're moving forward. Some grantors won't give you any money until you've gotten halfway to your point, right? And we're just about there. So they won't really look at you. These are some big grantors, won't look at you until you're halfway into your campaign. So we're just about there. And then there's others that will give you more money the next year if you utilize the funds they give you towards the project. So there's benefit to starting that. So we just have to work, we've got a lot of projects happening. And so we just sort of have to see how that might work with all the other things that are going on. So
that was a meeting with the city council.
yeah, and they were really
We need to
supportive
move
of it.
forward, but they kind of have to be the
Yeah.
engine to drive that.
Because it's a city project. Partners for Parks is providing resources to the city. It's a city project. So we want to just, make sure that, so it's not the Partners for Parks is going to go off or the city's going to give them money to build a barn. They're doing this as it's a very big blessing to the city. So, and working really hard at it. So they're making great progress.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Anything else from board members?
Just have a comment on the new guy on the block here. Kudos to Mary, how she handled that meeting.
Yeah.
Sure, that thick skin.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, with that said, our next meeting is March 26th, Tuesday, regular day.
We're going to probably meet in the council chambers because we're going to be talking about our preferred plan. There may be some people interested in coming and learning about the preferred plan, but we'll be showing one, I think, right? One preferred option.
Yes.
So that we'll be giving you, similar to what we did today, but we'll be talking to you about it in specificity because you'll have a plan in front of you.
Is it going to be open public comment?
Generally, we allow that. It'll be up to the chair to help us determine that, but we can talk about how to structure the meeting. I don't think we want just people to reiterate how, we don't want those people coming and we hate the project. I think some folks will see the changes. I mean, part of it is
You couldn't even hold it in.
part of doing a master plan process, which, we do this stuff all the time. Most of you have been involved in this in a variety of ways, especially on the park board. You guys, we've done this so many times. We know that you take a lot of great ideas, you map it out to show that you heard everybody's great idea, but not every great idea gets picked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully when we get to this preferred alternative and we talk about why things are here and why things were moved or why things aren't located there, people will understand that's what the process has been. Council has made it very clear that this is an area that needs some love and attention. We want to make it safe. Public access to water, they see it as an equity decision because not everybody lives on the lake. We have very limited access to the water. And for folks that live a block away or 3 blocks up or across town, deserve to be able to come and, see, touch, look, feel the lake. So council's committed to doing something there. So the idea of not doing it is really not an option, but if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. And let's be good stewards of our public land, let's be good stewards of our public resources and do something great for our community, so. And I think over the city's been a city for 26 years. I think that the city has done a lot of amazing projects. I think they've been great stewards of the city resource. I think they've taken areas that were challenging and made them better. And then I think we do a good job of keeping things up as best we can, so. I might be biased, but I do think the city, you know, Parks and Rec, and the city was founded on people wanting a better quality of life, and Parks and Recreation were built into the foundation of incorporation. And we just did a survey. Maybe we'll bring that out for a future. The city council's looking at, there's a community survey. Maybe we'll get Michael Vargas to come talk about it. And although the demographic, I think, is not exactly representative of our whole community, Parks and Recreation came out really pretty well in the survey that people saw it as essential need. We do a pretty good job of what we're doing. Use a few more fitness classes, it said, but other than that, I think that we do a pretty good job, so. There we go.
I think you guys are doing amazing. With that being said, you adjourn.
We adjourn.
Shelley, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you all.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Cemetery, Washington, and that.
It's Washington Boulevard, just past the.
That's the fire station.
station.
There's a fire station, then there's a church,
Yeah.
and then it's an open space.